Think we are live. Let me check from the
Yeah,
team. We are live. Yeah, we are live finally. Yeah, awesome. So, hey everyone. I hope you had a great start for the Full Stack Squared conference by DevScript. And today we have an amazing personality, Bill. So, and congratulations on your new role, Bill. And so he has a tons of experience and he has been a marketing manager at CNCF Foundation. I hope you know. And he has been helping the community with the Celium, with the isovalent. So basically, he's uh, empowering communities to grow with the cloud native. And today we'll have an interesting conversation and how we can grow as a community in the cloud native space. So over to you, Bill.
cool. Thank you. And thanks everyone for having me. When we're talking about, I know a lot of people are looking to start off their careers, and today I'm going to be talking about how you can launch your career in the cloud native industry. So let me just share my screen. Um, oh man, I have a new computer and everything's changed around. So yeah, let's see. Here we go. Cool. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So today I'm going to be talking about launching your career in the cloud native industry. So before we jump in, I'm going to walk you back about 5 years ago to the launch of both Pokemon Go and the cloud native computing industry. And at that time, it was one of the first kind of augmented reality games on the market. And I just remember there was a whole summer where everyone that I saw was walking around and playing Pokemon Go. And if you look at this graph between their target traffic, their worst case estimate, and their actual traffic, you can see there is a massive difference in terms of the scale that they needed to deliver. And the way that they were able to do this was through cloud computing or cloud native computing. And they did it actually based on a technology called Kubernetes. And cloud native computing allows you to take the scalability and reliability of the cloud and scale to meet your users as they need things. And that's one of the huge advantages that companies are turning towards now. And so let me take you and tell you a little bit how cloud native came to be. So way back in the day, there was non-virtualized hardware. You would set up a server, plug it in, and if you needed more servers to serve more customers, you'd need to buy more servers, plug them in, wire them up, set them up. Then around like 2000, there became VMware, which is where you started to virtualize things. And so you were able to create virtual machines on these servers and scale up the number of virtual machines that you had. Then became infrastructure as a service with things like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, platform as a service, then open source infrastructure as a service, open source, platform as a service. And then in 2013, an exciting thing happened. There was a thing called containers. And containers allowed you to segment things into like smaller pieces and create more microservices applications where each package is really in its own containers. And then Kubernetes was created to dynamically orchestrate these containers. So as you're running tens, hundreds, thousands, even millions of containers, you can do that in an automated fashion. And that was really the beginning of the cloud native, I guess, industry and ecosystem. Now, CNCF does have a definition of cloud native, and I'll read it really quickly here. But I would say this definition is focused more towards people that are just in the IT organization. So cloud native technologies empower organizations to build and run scalable applications in modern dynamic environments, such as public, private, and hybrid clouds. Containers, service meshes, microservices, immutable infrastructure, and declarative APIs exemplify this approach. These technologies enable loosely coupled systems that are resilient, manageable, and observable. Combined with robust automation, they allow engineers to make high-impact changes frequently and predictably with minimal toil. So I don't know about you, but the first time I read this actually didn't make a lot of sense to me. I picked up a couple words here and there, but it didn't really resonate with me. I was new to the industry and I didn't know what all these words meant. Even when people say like more specific quotes, like Kubernetes is a cornerstone of our seamless developer experience, allowing us to ship ideas to production using a single declarative API, that still doesn't really land with me. And so I needed to break it down for myself even more. And I think the definition that with me and is actually going to resonate with the customers that are using cloud native services. Say when you go to your bank and you're doing online banking, you want something that just works. It'll work frictionlessly and improves quickly. Say your online banking experience, you don't want the app crashing all the time. You don't want your money disappearing from your account, and you want the app to improve quickly. And these are the type of things that cloud native technologies enable. So where is cloud native today then? So cloud native has really become the de facto standard for all industries, and we've really only seen the COVID-19 pandemic accelerate this trend. In 2000, use of containers in production increased to 92%, and use of Kubernetes in production is 83%. Really, cloud native has become the standard across the industry of how companies are developing and doing microservice-based applications. And that leads me a little bit to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and I'll tell you a little bit about who they are. So the Cloud Native Computing Foundation is a nonprofit foundation under the Linux Foundation. Today it hosts over 120 of the most important open source projects in the cloud native ecosystem, including projects like Kubernetes, Prometheus, Envoy, and even Cilium, donated by Isovalent, where I currently work. In addition to the most well-known projects, there's also sandbox projects that are really in experimental fields. And so things like application delivery, edge computing, networking, chaos engineering, things like that are where the sandbox projects are focused. In addition to that, CNCF has 750 members around the world, and it's continuing to grow day by day, week by week. It includes probably some of the names that you're familiar with, like Apple, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Red Hat, Microsoft, and it encompasses industry players all around the world. In addition to that, I think one of the unique things about CNCF is that there's also an end user community. And so these are the companies that aren't providing or selling cloud native services. So Google Cloud is selling their cloud services, but companies like MasterCard or N26 or the German rail system aren't selling cloud native services. They're providing actual services to end customers, things like banking, transportation, cars, business services, things like that. So they rely on cloud native services as the core of being able to provide their services and goods to their customers. And I think the unique relationship here is that these end user companies provide the insight. They're the ones that are going to be woken up at 3 a.m. if something goes wrong in a production system. And so they need rock solid technology that they're able to rely on in production. And this end user community in the CNCF ecosystem allows that feedback from those real production use cases to come back into the ecosystem and improve it for everyone involved. And so beyond just the CNCF, there are some cloud native building blocks. And I think there's kind of two main ones that have helped the ecosystem grow, expand, and improve so much. So the first is collaboration among Team Cloud Native, and the second is really this end user driven ecosystem. So the first one for Team Cloud Native. So CNCF is a foundation of doers, and we really see that every single contribution matters. It's not just about the technical contributions that people can have, but it's also about the non-code contributions that people have. So I myself, I don't know how to write code, but there's still many other ways that I contribute to CNCF and the cloud native ecosystem. Things like writing blog posts, talking about it at events like this, organizing meetups, doing different ways to encourage people to come into the ecosystem. And every single contribution really matters. And you can see that in the projects that we do. The 120 projects that CNCF hosts have over 150,000 contributors representing 177 different countries. And for instance, my first contribution to the CNCF ecosystem was actually just fixing a broken link on the Kubernetes website. Even that is helpful for people that look at the documentation in the future. And the great thing about CNCF is it's a great place for companies to come together and work. It's a neutral foundation that really encourages cross-company collaboration to really drive the industry forwards. And the second part of that is also this end user ecosystem that CNCF has. And it really, I think, drives the open source too, because if these projects weren't used by the end users, they really wouldn't be used at all. There'd be no feedback loop for them. And beyond that, we're really seeing this second wave of cloud native adoption where end user companies are driving the open source projects that are important to CNCF. So Prometheus came from SoundCloud, which is a music streaming service. Envoy came from Lyft, which is a ride sharing service. So a lot of these, it's not the core technology that they have, but in order to deliver their business at the scale that they needed to create these open source projects that now are under the CNCF foundation. And so we really see this virtuous cycle where end users talk to the project creators about their needs, their use cases, what things are working, what things aren't. It creates enhancements to improve the projects. The projects become better for those end users, and more end users then end up adopting the projects, which once again leads to more feedback for the projects. And this virtuous cycle allows the CNCF ecosystem to really drive the use, the reliability, the scalability, and the usefulness of the projects forwards. And so I would really like to today invite you to join Team Cloud Native and come on the journey with us. And it's not just for the feel good or the swags. The great thing about the cloud native ecosystem is it's in super high demand. Some stats about Kubernetes jobs. The average salary for a Kubernetes job is $117,000 US per year. Kubernetes searches have grown over 2,000% in the last 4 years. And there's thousands of job listings on different platforms. I can tell you lots of anecdotal stories. I know people that have, doubled their salary this year because they're in the cloud native industry. I know other people that are getting big increases, being able to switch jobs, being able to work remotely. There is a good job for you in the cloud native industry if this is a career path that is interesting to you. And it's not just technical people too. We need people to tell the story. I'm not a technical person myself, and I'm helping tell the story of cloud native. We need people that are doing marketing, product management. There's lots of different roles to fill within the cloud native industry. Now, if you are wondering where to get started, I would highly encourage you to check out the cloud native landscape. So if you just type in l.cncf.io, you'll come to the cloud native landscape. And so what this is an overview of all the different projects, products, and companies that are in the cloud native ecosystem. It'll give you a little bit of an overview of what projects are important. And if you are a little bit overwhelmed by this, I know I am, it's just a lot of dots. There also is a guide for the CNCF landscape too. And you'll also find that on the Landscape website. So I'd encourage you to start there, go to the guide, and read through the different sections that they have to understand what the cloud native industry actually is. Next thing, if you're a student, I encourage you to check out github.com/cncf/students. This is a repo focused towards students and provides you a little bit of a learning path on where you should go in the cloud native industry. And it's kind of like a step-by-step process about what ways to get started in the cloud native industry. So I would say the first one is attending events like this, hearing about cloud native maybe for the first time, getting a little bit interested and excited about the industry. For students, there's free tickets to KubeCon Cloud Native Con, which is the largest open source conference in the world. Go there, learn about the event, find out. The next event is in May, and I encourage you to attend that. Get introduced to the technical concepts through free training courses, contribute to an open source project, earn your KCNA, and start building your community. And eventually it'll lead you to one of these jobs in the industry too. Another great way is to gather with the community. There's cloud native community groups. They're spread all around the world. There's probably one in your local city you can go to. These are usually monthly events where people come and talk about cloud native topics. It's a great way to meet different people in the industry. I know that's how I got my start in the cloud native industry, was going to these cloud native meetups and talking to people there. Beyond that, as kind of like mini conferences, there's Kubernetes community days. And these are a little bit more like regional conferences, bringing around people and practitioners from the industry to talk about what they're doing in cloud native right now. I know there are 2 in India being planned for this year and probably more. So there's one in Bangalore, and there's also one in Chennai. So I'd encourage you to check out those too. And the last one, as I said, was KubeCon Cloud Native Con. There's free tickets for students. I'd highly encourage you to attend that and learn about the cloud native industry too. The next one is free trainings. So CNCF and Linux Foundation offer lots of free trainings to help you get started in the cloud native ecosystem. First, there's a Kubernetes online course that has over 200,000 enrollments. It's one of the largest courses on edX. Once you've learned a little bit about Kubernetes, there's additional courses, things like service mesh fundamentals, managing Kubernetes applications, cloud native logging, and introduction to a lot of different technologies. These are a great way to kind of get started with different technologies too. If you want to start contributing to Kubernetes or other projects within the CNCF ecosystem, I'd encourage you to check out k8s.dev or SIG Contributor Experience. These are both ways to get started and learn about how you can start contributing to projects in the cloud native space. Other great resources are contribute.cncf.io and Technical Advisor Group Contributor Strategy. These both have more details about how you can contribute to open source projects under the CNCF umbrella. Beyond that, there's many learning sources on the industry that people can go to learn about how to contribute to projects. Looks Good to Me is a show talking about how to contribute to CNCF projects. There's things like 100 Days of Kubernetes. There's a Cloud Native Nano degree from Udacity and SUSE, and there's many more resources. I think one of the greatest things about the tech industry is that there's so much content available for you to learn online, and there's always more being produced. So you can learn anything that you want to online. I have no technical background or training. I learned everything I know from YouTube videos, from blogs, and from the people around me, and also a little bit of Twitter, maybe a lot. The other thing I'd encourage you to check out is the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Associate. So this is an entry-level certification for the cloud native industry. It's basically a multiple choice test about do you know things about Kubernetes and other technologies in the cloud native industry. I have it. I'd encourage you to check it out. I think it's a good way to show to companies that you're interested in cloud native and you know a little bit about the wider ecosystem. Once you earn your KCNA, there's further certifications like Certified Kubernetes administrator, certified Kubernetes application developer, and certified Kubernetes security specialist. And these certifications have really become the standard in the industry with tens of thousands of registrations and people that are certified with it. If you're looking for jobs, I'd also encourage you to check out the CNCF job board. There's lots of jobs in the cloud native industry on there, and it's a great way to find out about who's hiring too. Finally, thank you for coming today. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. If you have any questions, you can reach me at bill@isovalent.com or on Twitter @breakawaybilly. I post about a lot of things in the cloud native industry and lots of topics and ways to get involved there. So thank you for having me today. And yeah, I think we have some time for some questions too.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill, for that informative and inspiring session. I hope it was very beneficial for everyone who is attending this one. And I think we'll wait for a few more minutes. So if you can, like viewers, if you have any questions, like you can add in the comments so that we can take up from there. Yeah, because there was some internal issue with the platform, so we had to immediately shift it to YouTube. So
Okay.
there was
Right.
there was some issues. Yeah.
That's always a problem.
So there's a question by Jyoteshwar. So can we get internships in cloud native?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of companies offer internships, and the other thing I'd like to point you to is the CNCF offers mentorships all across the cloud native industry. So let me just find the link. I know that there's going to be 42 mentorships, and these are paid mentorships to contribute to open source projects under the CNCF umbrella. And so it's a great way to get started contributing to open source projects. It's a great way to get paid to contribute to the cloud native industry. I'm going to drop it. I don't know if I can drop it in the chat, but I sent it in the private chat, and maybe you can just like post that in the chat.
Sure. So we'll add these links in the description after the meeting, so it's totally fine. Yeah. Thanks
Okay.
for sharing. I think it answers the question. So there's another question. So what are some cool things you are working on or building right now?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm currently working on the Cilium project, which is a cloud native networking, security, and observability project. We're working on building out the community there. That's, I think, the most exciting thing. It's using a really cool technology called eBPF, which is a Linux kernel technology that allows you to extend the functionality of the Linux kernel in a safe way and allows you to, I guess, speed up a lot of things you want to do. It's a really hot technology right now. So that's, I guess, the most exciting thing I'm working on and learning about right now.
Great, awesome. So there's another question. So what is hybrid cloud? Can you explain about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So hybrid cloud is when you're working across multiple different environments. And so this is when so there's the public cloud, things like Google, Amazon, Azure, and other public cloud providers. And a lot of companies also have a private cloud, so their own data centers where they're running servers and racks and stuff. And a hybrid cloud is when you're running applications in both environments. So both in the public cloud and the private cloud. So that's why it's called hybrid cloud, because you're using both.
Great. Thanks for answering that. I hope it helps everyone. So there's another question that's interesting. As you have said earlier that you have learned a lot from Twitter. How can I leverage Twitter for learning purpose? By the way, I'm very new to Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like the most important thing is who you follow on Twitter, because they'll be like who's in your timeline and who you're following. A lot of people have like lists of people that they want to that like you can scroll through. I personally don't have any lists. It's up to your own preference. I just follow a lot of people. I think I follow almost 2,000 people on Twitter, and it's just people that I find interesting or want to follow in the industry. And I can tell you, like, Twitter's been a great resource for my career. I've actually gotten my last two jobs through Twitter. So my job at the CNCF was through Twitter, and also my current job too. So it's not just learning; it's also a lot of different opportunities there. A lot of people interact and engage there. I think what it does for me is it helps me kind of follow the industry trends, like what are the most important topics, kind of stay on the pulse of the industry. And yeah, the important thing is just like who you follow. So I'd encourage you to just follow as many people as you can. And like another thing is when you see like conversations on Twitter, just like if you see somebody that's basically what I do is whenever I see say somebody posting something interesting or commenting interesting thoughts in a thread, then I follow them. That's how I do it. But people probably have more like advanced ways of doing Twitter too.
Yeah, that's great. I think that pretty much sums up the answer, and it's very true. So I think we don't have any questions. So feel free to reach out, and you can comment after this session as well. So we'll try to take up. So there are great resources which are shared by Bill himself. So you can check out different platforms about CNCF to learn, and if you want to join their communities, that's a great opportunity because of tech in this era. I think there are a lot of opportunities, and you can be a part of it whether you know code or you don't know code. So it doesn't matter. You have to just show some interest and connect with their idea, and you can be a winner. So thanks Bill for your time, and it was a really great and informative session. I myself have learned a lot of things about CNCF, and I hope we will have even more deeper sessions. We'll learn more about something in near future. And thanks everyone for joining. Stay tuned, and you can follow Bill in his Twitter, and you can stay connected with him.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.